Hello everybody and welcome to episode 50 of the Let's Play world. Quite the milestone, very exciting. It's also the first episode where I have surpassed 100 subscribers, so thank you guys who have joined recently for helping me reach that, and hopefully we'll grow this channel more and more. You know, it was about a year ago when I started doing this during the lockdown and the pandemic and all that. You know, I like to play Minecraft and I could do that by myself. The reason I make episodes is because I like editing video, I like telling stories, I make all the music, and I really do it for you guys. You know, I could play the game by myself and be just fine, but I like sharing it, I like telling the stories, and hopefully you guys find that entertaining and you have fun with it. So thank you again for tuning in each week and following along on the adventure. I really appreciate it. Today, all I want to do is I want to revisit what we've done so far in these last 50 episodes. I want to take us back to the beginning and walk through some of our builds, some of the things that we accomplished. I want to look at some of our stats and see how we're doing there. And I also want to put some shaders on and show you guys what this thing looks like with some fancy light and textures. So we're going to start our episode way over here, back at the spawn chunks. So this here is where it all started. We spawned into this forest, kind of in the base of a valley next to a river, and we ended up heading over those mountains to find our base. We came back here to the spawn chunks to build our iron farm, and I currently have this guy disabled just because I have so much iron. Usually there's a couple of villagers and a zombie up there that create iron golems over and over, and then they fall down here into a lava trap. Inside, I would then harvest the iron in here, and yeah, I've just been kind of stockpiling it, so I have just blocks and blocks of iron. And then I took the poppies that the iron golems would drop, and I'd run them through a composter, and I had a little bone meal producer here as well, which was really handy early game. The other thing we built out here is a turtle farm. I built that out here on the shore. It's not super efficient, but I just wanted access to a turtle shell helmet and scoot in case I wanted to use it in potions. I've got a system here where I can let the turtles, you know, come and go as they please, and then trap them in here so that we can do some breeding of new turtles. Cool little system. And then just a little outpost here where we could hang out and collect the materials and all that. Just a little bit east of the iron farm, we have our ocean monument. And this is a fairly recent project that you guys probably saw. I went in and I conquered it, and I ended up clearing the whole thing out. So we have this nice big space here where eventually we will build a prismarine farm. I lined the whole thing in glass so that we can see out into the ocean. Got a little back door here in case we need to get out there into the ocean. And yeah, this was a lot of work, always is. But yeah, I have tons of prismarine now, of course, because we tore the whole thing down, and it's just a really cool looking space. Next thing I want to show you guys is the mesa. This is the farthest north we've gone so far, is this portal that we've built. And then we had a suggestion to build a glass rainbow out here, which I think looks really awesome against the Badlands mesa out there. I've got a little path that I have followed here. Just goes down to some little bridges, and this is where I've come to do my terracotta mining, basically, or terracotta collecting, whatever you want to call it. I run over this way, and then I just kind of follow the torches. You run across here, and one more bridge that comes out here. And as you can see, I've done a lot of flattening of this out here. This is where I've collected most of my terracotta. You can see even with all of the mining I've done, I've barely put a dent in this thing. One mesa just contains so much terracotta, it's pretty insane. Back at the portal, I still want to build some sort of, you know, outpost or somewhere we can hang out. And then around the back here, over in that direction, you can start to see our desert outpost. We do spend a lot of time gathering sand to use mainly for glass, and I wanted somewhere where I could, you know, have a bed and some chests and things like that so that I could stay out here until the sun went down and then have a place to crash out. Just a nice little space. There's a portal, connects to the nether, and then again, just some workstations. I really like this design here with the terracotta. It looks like the floor is just dirty or stained. I think that's a really simple little addition, and it really helps sell it. I also really like this roof or ceiling with the beams. One thing that's kind of cool about this is it's 2 levels. So we have our workspace down below, and then we have this staircase here with a bedroom upstairs. The bedroom has a bed, just some decoration, that kind of thing. And then since it's open air, I installed this lever that makes the bottom 2 stairs disappear. And that way, creepers and zombies and things won't sneak up on us while we're sleeping. The next thing I want to talk about is the base, where we've been spending most of our time. Really happy with how this turned out. I had some initial drawings of this very modern structure that was built in the foundation of an old castle, and it was very white and purple with this sort of modern kind of magical top, and it turned out just the way I had hoped. Really, really happy with this. And yeah, like I was saying, I imagine when I was thinking about it, like there used to be a kingdom here. There's an old castle that fell down or has since worn away, and then this new structure built in the foundation of it. So yeah, this was quite a project. You know, it took several episodes to complete, and we kind of did it layer by layer. There's a nice 3x3 piston door with a button to let us in here. We walk into kind of our main area, and I have some armor on display, armor stands speckled throughout as decoration. A nice open back area here with a couple of elevators to get us upstairs. The centerpiece of the room is my first chair that we built out of dark oak, and I've got Fleazy E, I've got Jeff Goldblum, and I've got Bird Ferguson who hang out here, and a lot of times this is where I start or end episodes. Around back of the chair is where I keep a lot of the newer armors and things like that that I've been collecting. And then there's 3 rooms on either side. On this side, I've got my potion brewing room, which I'm pretty happy with. Lots of cool little decoration, and it looks very busy. Got all of my ingredients in here. Next door here, this was kind of my first bedroom, or my kind of utility room, I guess. Lots going on here. Looks like kind of a storage closet or something. Lots of things piled around. Next door here is our enchanting room. Tons of bookcases. Looks really, really cool. We've got our friend BB over here. That was one of our first pets. Across the way, we have our planning room. As you guys know, if you follow along, we spend a lot of time in here figuring out what's next and what have we completed. So, yeah, lots of suggestions from viewers. And then, you know, some nether projects, some mining projects, some end projects. Next door here, we have our map room. Here we have some miscellaneous treasure maps that we've found. A lot of these don't have anything in them except, you know, like extra treasure maps and things like that. Here's our main map with our base and our farms and a lot of the areas where we have been working. Our waterfront project, our future village project. And then the map over here is a more of a world map. So here is our base. So that little area there is all of this, kind of right there. The spawn chunks with the iron farm and the turtle farm are up here. And then the desert and the mesa were way up in the corner there. We've recently gone south, probably about this far down, where we've started doing our copper mine. And once we get to 1.18, we're going to head north way up here to areas we've never been to. And then the last thing I've got over here is kind of my trophy room. I've got a lot of the heads that I've been collecting, some of the unique items. So here I've got the Dragon Slayer. That's the sword I used to kill the dragon. Got the Todd Pod. I made that on a stream. My first pickaxe that we ever used and made. The Wither Killer. That's a sword we used to kill the Wither. And then the book about the king and his sons and Malmog the Sorcerer that we've been sussing through lately. Got the dragon egg right in the middle here. some of the banners we've collected. Yeah, just lots of fun things that we've gathered up. So one of these elevators has magma, the other one has soul sand. So this is our up elevator, that's our down elevator. And when we hop in here, we end up at the next level, which is our storage room. And believe it or not, there's actually kind of a halfway floor, which you'll remember if you've been following along, which is where our super smelter is. So when I throw things in the smelter, this is where all the magic happens. It comes down through here, it's distributed through all of the furnaces, and then it comes back up into a barrel. And this is hidden between the first and second floor. And then the portal that goes into the nether, I left the back open, so this was a nice way we could fly in and out. This corner over here, we have our way down, and this is where we came up, and then we have 2 more elevators that'll take us up to the 3rd floor. Up top here, I wanted this to be just a refuge away from everything down on the ground. You know, sometimes the bed down lower, there'll be monsters outside and they'll say there's monsters nearby, you can't sleep. With this bed, I can always sleep. You know, there's never monsters close enough. And I wanted this to look kind of, you know, like a meeting room, just our personal space here where we can hang out and talk and all that. A much fancier chair than downstairs, made out of quartz. A meeting table here with some nice lighting. And then I've been adding a lot of you guys to the wall here. I've got the Blaine Train, I've got Not So Funny, Jason Larson, and Scott Griggs. Over on this side, I've got Adam Grun Clampett, Lucas, Kyle Sessions, I Douglas, and Frolic 131. The way you get up on the wall is if you make a suggestion or a comment, and if I build your suggestion or if I talk about your comment during an episode, I'm going to put your name on the wall. That way you'll be immortalized in my build. And then I have one more open area here so that I can just fly on out if I want to. There's one more area in the base that's only accessible from the air, and that's the rooftop garden up here. This has a little pool with, you know, some of the seagrass and sea pickles, lots of flowers and ferns. You got the bamboo, all the different types of plants and leaves. And then I did this sort of design so it looked like the base was sort of digitizing or sort of fading up into the sky. Made one more chair here out of quartz and birch. And I'm really excited to locate some of the new stuff, like the glowberries and the moss and things like that, so that we can add that in here. And it's just a really nice, clean, pretty little space. So way underground, underneath the base, is our mine. And this is where we spent a lot of time initially digging and gathering resources, that sort of thing. I decorated it so it looked like a hand-dug mine with lots of texturing and detail and that sort of thing, and I think it looks really, really cool. The only way to get down here now is through the nether. Initially, we had a staircase that we would climb up and down. Now we just go into the nether and we pop through a second portal and it takes us down here. Out the back here is where I set up our first beacons and started digging. And a beacon is good for about 50 blocks. So you can see we've dug 50 blocks in that direction. We've dug 50 blocks in that direction. We still got quite a ways to go in that direction, and we haven't finished out this yet. But yeah, we are digging out a big space here. And I'm thinking in the future, maybe we will use this as one of our museums. We'll see. It's a really big space, so there's a lot of potential here. Out front of the base, we have this kind of oval-shaped walkway, and then we have all of our farms. Over here, we have our wool farm. So I have a whole bunch of sheep that are up there. And inside is where we collect the wool. So upstairs, the sheep have some redstone around them that watches for when they eat, and when they eat, the shearing happens automatically, and then the wool is collected. So all I have to do is come down here and pick it up. This has been really useful. This building was one of the first times I used blackstone in the overworld, and I think it's a real industrial looking factory kind of a build. So suited it really, really nice. Next door, this is my chicken farm. And basically what's going on here is there are some chickens that sit here and just lay eggs all day long. And then when they lay the eggs, they are shot out by a dispenser, and the dispenser breaks them, and every once in a while a broken egg will create a little chick. The chicks sit here until they grow up on this half slab, and when they grow up they get a little bit taller, and once their head's poking into the water, the adult chicken wants to swim up to the top. The adult chickens swim up here, and then they are deposited into this holding cell up top. And then what happens is periodically that redstone fires, and there's a bunch of pistons down here that shoot the chickens up into the air, and they hit this lava, and they get cooked, and then cooked chicken and feathers rain down. And works pretty well. This has been kind of my main food source for a while. A little bit twisted, but pretty functional. Next door to the chicken farm is my sugarcane farm. And inside here, there's just a bunch of sugarcane and then some flying machines that are connected to a redstone circuit. And periodically, the flying machines go across and they break all of the sugarcane, and then I could come over here and just collect it. It works pretty well. Next to the sugarcane farm is my cactus farm. And although it's kind of a big building, there's only a couple of pieces of cactus in here. I only use cactus really for green dye and cyan dye, so I don't need a lot of it. And I think, yeah, we still have a ton. It's just a passive farm. The cactus grows, the hitbox collides with the fence, and it breaks itself, and then there's water that collects it. Really, really simple. Out front here, I have my tall flower farm, and there's a little bit of redstone under here connected to some dispensers with some bone meal, and when I flip this, it will just make a bunch of flowers, which I can then collect and turn into dye. Really simple. I really like this sort of shed kind of garden-y look. It looks really natural, really unobtrusive, fits really well into a weird little space I had, so super functional. The last farm on this side is the pumpkin farm, and there's just a bunch of pumpkins and a bunch of redstone, and periodically on a redstone clock, these pistons fire and they break all the pumpkins, which then flow down. One thing I really like about this farm is I created a pipe, basically a contained water stream that takes the pumpkins into this building here. This building here is my villager trading hall, also my villager breeder. It's a really cool building. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. This was sort of early in the season that I built this. Inside, we have these 3 hallways. And I haven't really got much going on down there yet. Down here I have my farmers. I've got some librarians and masons. Here is where all the pumpkins end up, and I can take the pumpkins, trade them with the farmers to get emeralds, and then use the emeralds to trade with these guys. This is where I get a lot of my enchantments from my books. This is where I was getting a lot of my quartz initially. Down this middle hallway, I have a lot of enchantments as well. So, you know, my silk touch guy, my mending guy, things like that. I haven't done the zombie trick to lower this. I just didn't want to put in that much effort. And I figure, you know, I have so many pumpkins anyway, it's not that big a deal. At the very back here, there's some scaffolding. And if I follow the scaffolding to the top, I end up in the space under the roof. And here I have some, you know, a bed, a clock so I can see what time it is, and then some materials for moving villagers around. Up at the very top here, that's my villager breeder. I have a little carrot farm, and there's a villager farmer who harvests these carrots, and then he'll come over here and throw the carrots at these two. And these two have more beds than they need, so every once in a while they create an extra villager, and that villager will drop down into this water stream here. So once the villagers get flushed out, they come down here, and right now I just have a magma block, so they'll land on that and they just end up dying. But if I need villagers, I can remove that and collect them and then take them wherever I need them. The excess carrots that get thrown, they come along here and get collected here as well. Next to the villager breeder, this is my bee farm. Over here in this big yellow building, I have a couple of different things going on. Off to the left here, I have some hives, so if I do need to create more bees, I can do that. A little space over here for that. And then I have bees in their hives up here, and they'll pop out periodically and create either honeycomb or honey, which is then harvested, ends up in here. Next door to the bee farm is the creeper farm. And I really like this building because of my use of the different greens there. Kind of creates that illusion of height as it kind of lightens up at the top there. Next to the creeper farm is the cow farm. This one is a favorite among people who've seen it. I really like this design again because it looks like a factory, which I like quite a lot. Inside, we basically have these cows in these little pens here, and when I push this, they will bounce in some water streams. And if I breed them up and then stand on this pressure plate, the baby cows will come up this water stream and they'll get pushed over into this holding cell. Now the baby cows are a little bit shorter than the adult cows, so when I push this button, a lava blade will pop out. It'll cook the adult cows, and then these hoppers catch all of the leather and the beef, comes over here, sorts them out. If any cows die from cramming, their beef gets cooked in this smoker, and then we end up with leather over here, beef over here. The last farm over here is the record farm. If you can get a skeleton to kill a creeper, the creeper will drop a music disc. And so I've got a skeleton trapped over here. I've got an iron golem trapped down there. And what I can do is I can lure creepers into this space here. And then when I stand on this pressure plate, it exposes the skeleton to the iron golem, and he just shoots his arrows over and over. The creeper dies, and then I pick up their music discs. The space in between the farms is really detailed and landscaped. I've got little things like these, ruins from whenever the castle was built. Lots of plants and bushes, got a little pond. Everything's lit up really well so you don't get anything spawning in here. And then the whole thing is surrounded with a wall so that I don't get any mobs creeping in or sneaking their way in. On the other side of the base, we have the waterfront. I am super pleased with how this turned out. I had an idea of what I wanted, and the results are so much better than I had anticipated. The little details like the burnt building, the fishermen wandering around, the ship, these were all viewer ideas that I added into my dock that I was basically going to build, and again, so happy with the results of this. As with the farms, there is a wall all the way around this thing so I don't get mobs sneaking in. This little building here was the first thing we ever built on this location. This was our little shack where we lived for a long time. We had our chests and our bed and our crafting table, and we would hang out here while we worked on different parts of the base and built farms. Got the stables with the animals. We've got our storage area over here in the corner. One of the first things we built on the waterfront was the lighthouse, and I have built something similar to this before, but never at this scale. I like how it sort of looks like a natural feature that was transformed into a lighthouse, like maybe a long, long time ago there was some sort of spire or mountain and they just added to it to make it functional. Another highlight of the waterfront is the big old boat. Never built anything like this before. This was a viewer suggestion, and it turned out really great. I think the shape and the detail is really fantastic. As we get on board here, it's a multi-deck ship, so you got your little captain's quarters over here. You've got your below deck, where you've got your storage and all of that. Got your upper deck, where you can steer the ship. It was definitely challenging, but it turned out great. On this side of the base, we built a garden and an arboretum, and this was a viewer suggestion as well. Basically, I just went around and collected all the different types of trees and planted a garden. At the back of the garden is one of the first farms that we ever built. This is our zombie farm over here. We happened to discover a spawner very close to our base, just below us. And when we hang out here, they're flushed into a water stream, which takes them up to the top of this tower and then drops them over here, where we can collect XP and rotten flesh and all of that. And then underneath the garden, we've got the little museum down here. Oh, looks like our mushrooms are overgrowing. So we've got all of our types of saplings, we've got all our types of mushrooms, all the different types of wood, their leaves and their stripped versions. Got our forest. This is where the lush cave stuff will go. Our desert. Our underwater plants. The nether vines and the other nether. Got our bamboo and our sugarcane. Then all the types of flowers. Once we find some of the new lush stuff like the glowberries and the moss, we'll have to add them in. This is my end portal room, and even though we don't get here very often, this is one of my favorite rooms I've ever built. I absolutely love the combination of colors, I love the combination of blocks. This combination here, the stripped oak, the mushroom stems, and the terracotta, how they just sort of transition into each other, the mix of wood and end stone, how it feels like the portal's being illuminated. The shape of the room and the bookshelves and the lectern makes it all feel very academic and, you know, like there's research happening here. It's just a neat space, and I'm really, really proud of this one. We still have a lot of work to do in the end, but I'm really happy with how we've started out. I had the idea to dig through the island rather than trying to build on top of it. That way we don't have to deal with all the Endermen, and it really feels sort of like a space station or a moon base or something like that. So we appear on that obsidian platform. We have a really long hallway. About halfway down, we have access back up to the portal so we can get back to the overworld. And down at the end here, we have a portal that goes to the outer end islands. One place we've spent a tremendous amount of time, arguably too much time, is in the Nether. The Nether is a scary, inhospitable place, and one of the great joys I find in the game is creating passages and a network of tunnels to get to the places you want to get safely. I think it's just a really cool and fun thing to do. This is our portal to the base, and we've got our kind of demony angel dragon symbol up here to indicate that. Right across the hall, this is our mine. So when we pop through here, we end up down in the mine. So if we turn left out of our base, we head down in this direction, and that's where our new copper mine is. You can see we've started to utilize the deep slate blocks and that sort of thing, and this is the next nether tunnel that we're going to build. And if we turn right out of our base, this is the first nether tunnel we ever built. We did a gray and red checkerboard pattern, utilized the black stone, and then lots of the crimson stuff, and I think it looks very nethery. Very cool look. This first intersection here, we created fairly recently, and this tunnel goes down to our ocean monument. I utilized that same checkerboard pattern, but really leaned on some of the cyan colorways and the sea lanterns to create that oceany kind of look. And it looks awesome. This is one of my favorite tunnels here. If we continue down this way, to the right, we have a gray and black checkerboard pattern, some basalt, and some iron bars. This takes us down to our iron farm, and I really like this variation as well. The iron bars sort of indicate that we're headed down to the iron farm, and the gray sort of feels kind of metallic and irony. Down here, this was something I really wanted to do, and it turned out fantastic. This was just floating in the air, and I decided I wanted it to look as though it was natural, and like the tunnel had broken apart, exposing some of the, support structures and things like that. And then we run into this very unnatural portal in the wall. So all of this was built. I, built up these walls, I put the magma blocks down, I planted all of the wart and the hanging vines, I put the lava back there. This is all a creation, and it looks fantastic. It really sells the idea that this tunnel broke as it reached this unnatural wall in the nether. So really happy with this. Across from the iron farm, in this direction, I utilize some of the crying obsidian that leads us to our peglin bartering area. So here I have a little contraption where we can load this up with gold. There's a little minecart going back and forth back there to distribute the gold, and when I hit this button, it will give them an ingot of gold. They will then each give me something in exchange for the gold, which is deposited down here. If we continue past the iron farm and the piglin bartering area, we get to the nether bridge. And again, this is one of those kind of theming ideas where I wanted it to look like this hallway broke or fell apart at some point. And here we have this mix of blackstone and nether brick in this really kind of spooky and dangerous looking bridge. The way this is built, there's no way that I can fall off of here or accidentally jump over. It's actually safe. And because it's half slabs, it's all non-spawnable. So I don't get the hoglins or piglins out here. And the bridge leads across to our warped area. You can see the warped forest, and we get this hallway. And this is meant to contrast the previous area. This has a lot of the blue and cyan sort of warped look, much taller. In the warped forests, you see a lot of endermen, and I thought, maybe some endermen who once lived in this area, they built this. And then here is a floor made of glass that goes down into a blinding white light. You got the lava light here, and it just descends into this fog. A really cool vibe here. Very ethereal, very magical. The hallway continues across to a dead end down there. To the left, we have a little bit of a hallway, and then again we get that look as though something had broken or maybe changed. And we get that same sort of look as the bridge, this cobbled together look of the blackstone and the nether brick. Really detailed, really kind of textured and rough. You can see the ceiling goes up and down, and the walls have all sorts of different mix of materials. And if we follow this for just a little bit, we get to this room here, which is my nether mine. Down here is where I have been digging for my blackstone and where I dig for my ancient debris. This just leads down to a big corridor. It's not very exciting. I really like the ceiling in this room. I utilized a lot of the different glazed terracotta in some different patterns, and it's really neat when you start sticking blocks next to each other from the different palettes and how they sort of tie together in some different ways. It's really cool, I think. If we keep going past the mine, we end up in this really stark kind of hallway. I love this sort of thing with the gas. This goes through a basalt delta, and then we'll go back into a soul sand valley over here. Here it sort of turns, and if we keep going in that direction, the tunnel's not finished yet, but there is a fortress way down there that I found. And then this leads down to another fortress where I built our blaze farm. That same sort of cobbled together look of the black stone and the nether brick. It's just a real simple design where there's a blaze spawner that falls down and lava just washes them into this middle space here. So it is not a very fast blaze farm, but you can see that we get a lot of materials from it. From this room here with the foggy floor and the decorative ceiling, we turn right, we go deeper into the warped forest. And I have this very kind of open air, plain, kind of magical walkway here. And at this point, we haven't finished this part yet. This leads down to the mesa and our end portal and the desert. Because we're in a basalt delta, we definitely need to enclose this so we don't get attacked by magma cubes and ghasts. So this is a project that we'll work on in the future. So I want to take a couple minutes and go through some of the statistics here. There's basically three categories. There's general, there's items, and there's mobs. Under general, a couple of interesting things. I have opened about 10,000 barrels. I've also opened about 10,000 chests. I just think that's kind of interesting. I've dealt over 75,000 points of damage, but I've only taken about 5,600 points of damage. That's pretty awesome. I've walked 1,171 kilometers. I have jumped almost 100,000 times. This one here is pretty interesting. It says time played 20.46 days. So over the last year, I've basically spent 20 days in Minecraft, which is pretty crazy when you add all that up. The next section here is items. So first up, we've got times mined. And if I select that, netherrack is the most I've mined, followed closely by stone, and then sand, basalt, which makes sense because of the nether hallways. And then we go down to dirt, cobble, prismarine, etc. Times broken. I have broken 46 picks. Times crafted. I have crafted almost 10,000 iron blocks. That's my number one, followed by the polished blackstone slabs, because this is the entire ceiling of our nether tunnel. A lot of spruce, a lot of birch slabs. That's our floor and our base. Torches, 4,600. White concrete powder, 4,400. So our base is mostly white concrete powder. I've crafted almost as many torches as I have blocks to build our base. Next up is times used. Oh man, I've used my netherite pickaxe 131,000 times. The difference between this one and all the other ones is so crazy. That's amazing. Next up we have picked up. And no surprise again, netherrack is the number one. We've done a lot of digging in the nether. Cobble, that's pretty average, I would say. Sand, a lot of sand, almost as much as cobble, which is pretty crazy. And then stone, basalt, dirt, blackstone. And then finally we have dropped. And not surprising, I've dropped a lot of netherrack too. Second one is rotten flesh. That's a lot of rotten flesh to drop. Cobble, you got your flowers, your basalt, prismarine, kelp. Yep, no surprise there. The last tab down here is mobs, and it's going to tell you how many you've killed and if you've ever been killed by one. So we've killed 28 bats. We've killed over 2,000 blazes. That's pretty crazy, and a blaze has never killed us, so that's pretty fortunate. 323 creepers, and they got us twice. 1 ender dragon. 613 guardians, and the guardians got us once. 12 piglin brutes. 364 skeletons, they got us once. 270 spiders, and we've been killed by spiders 4 times. I think that might be the mob that's killed us the most. And 5,183 zombies. It's pretty crazy when you look at the numbers like that. You know, I've been doing this series for about a year, 50 episodes. You know, even though the episodes are generally between 10 and 20 minutes each, I'm playing for about 9 hours per episode, you know, to get everything built and done and get enough footage so that I can edit together an episode. So like I said at the beginning of the episode, I could certainly just play Minecraft and build stuff, and that'd be fine. The reason that I make the videos and that I write the songs and that I push to get an episode out every Friday for you guys is because I like sharing all of this with you guys. I like getting your ideas and your reactions and your feedback, and it's really fun to have this sort of community aspect where people are excited or have ideas of ways to make things better. It's a lot of fun for me and a great creative outlet, and I'm really, really glad that I started doing it. To wrap up, I am going to give you guys a shader tour of the world and show off a lot of the builds, and I'll play some of the songs that I've written this last year. Thank you again for popping in each week and for subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next one.